Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host Gershwin and you are watching One Mind Syndicate. Today we continue talking about the Imperial Guard as we get into the Mordian Iron Guard. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We post Warhammer 40K lore videos every single day. If you have any suggestions, please comment down below. And don't forget to hit the little bell notification icon to stay updated, just to see if we do create a video for your suggestion. And if you enjoy our content, thank our patrons on Patreon. You could support us as well. Check out the link in the description below. But with that said, let's get into 40 facts on the Mordian Iron Guard. The Mordian Iron Guard are the superbly drilled regiments of the Imperial Guard that hail from the hive world of Mordian. They are the elite Imperial Guard regiments that hail from this tiny world of overcrowded hive cities and scarce resources. Mordian's already limited surface area is reduced further by simple quirks of rotation and orbit. Mordian's rotational speed and orbit are perfectly synchronized, resulting in a local day and a local year being of identical length, and causing one side of the world to be bathed in perpetual searing light, while the other is swathed in endless darkness. The entire population of Mordian dwells in cramped conditions upon a region on the dark side of the world, barely a tenth the size of Terra, where they are forced together into multi-level tower cities. Mordian's hive cities are characterized by pyramid-like multi-level towers, rising like mountains of steel and ceramic toward the ebon sky. The authoritarian planetary government of Mordian is known as the Tetrarchy, and it strictly controls and rations the planet's meager resources. The scarcity of resources and the typically dim lighting, which casts entire city-sized districts into an oppressive gloom, combine with the overcrowded conditions to breed constant discontent and thoughts of rebellion. As such, the existence of the Iron Guard is often the only thing that stands between order and total anarchy. There is much discontent among the people, and the Mordian Iron Guard spends much of its time simply keeping the populace in line when they are not deployed in the Imperial war zones. Standing against this threat is the Mordian Iron Guard. The Iron Guard serves as both the world's primary military force and the world's enforcers of order, and its troops strive to swiftly crush any uprising in its infancy, while protecting the world from external threats. Q-wars and riots are a common occurrence on Mordian, and the Iron Guard are thus never lacking for some threat to quell, whether from within or without. So named for their unwavering discipline and dour attitudes, the Iron Guard are a stark contrast to the unruly population around them, which outnumbers them by hundreds of thousands to one. The Iron Guard's precise, rigorously drilled combat doctrines have allowed them to maintain order in the name of Mordian's rulers, the Tetrarchs. With resources so scarce, a portion of Mordian's tithes to the Imperium is given in the form of Imperial Guard regiments drawn from the disciplined ranks of the Iron Guard. These regiments serve in a variety of roles within the Imperial Guard, but most commonly as line infantry. They are unusual in their disdain for traditional doctrines such as camouflage, preferring instead to take to the field in flank armor reinforced dress uniform, brightly colored and pristine. This can lead many to underestimate the Mordians in battle, perceiving them as vainglorious, naive, or inexperienced ceremonial troops. None who have made war against the Mordians with such a mistaken opinion have held it for long, often finding themselves blasted apart by precisely timed volleys of laser fire from a serious rank of unflinching and hardened veteran infantrymen. The guardsmen raised from Mordian have a reputation for following orders to the letter and without a moment's hesitation. Each Iron Guard rigidly obeys and respects the chain of command, and are amongst the most dependable troops in the Imperial Guard. Mordian tank crews are as disciplined as their infantry, their training as strict and rigorous as it's humanly possible. The Mordian Iron Guard regiments march to war in bright colors and ornate uniforms. Some enemies of the Emperor have been misled by the sight of the Iron Guard, believing that they were fighting amateurs, only to find tough, determined professional soldiers. Upon each regiment's founding, A lavish banner, created within Mordian's Tetrarch Palace, is presented to the regiment in a parade ground ceremony, during which every Iron Guard trooper swears an oath to never let the colors fall in battle or be captured by the enemy. The vehicles and troops of Mordian Iron Guard regiments proudly display an Iron Eagle emblem in addition to their regular platoon, company, and army markings, reminding the Mordians to enforce the Emperor's Steel discipline throughout the Imperium. While outside of an enclosed or artificial environment, such as a hive city, starship, or similar enclosed space, they have a difficult time adjusting due to their continual unfamiliarity with such places. Surrounded by crowds, Mordians are used to weaving through even the densest of mobs with ease, despite the typical difficulties of maneuvering in such an environment. Highly disciplined and iron-willed, the Iron Guard present perfectly formed firing lines, unleashing precisely timed volleys of blast fire despite the chaos of battle around them. The Iron Guard are known for their incredible discipline and will not to break from the line under almost any conditions, displaying a fortitude that is near superhuman when compared to other Imperial Guard regiments. In the long and sinister history of the Inquisition, there are many tales of treachery and horror, of the destruction of worlds and the triumph of man's greed and foolishness. It is a record of human weakness and the powers of chaos gods. Yet amongst the records of lost planets and mortal defeats, there are a few stories of human victory. Rare cases where a demonic army of chaos has been turned aside at the moment of success and driven back into the void from which it came. Mordian is one such world. The greatest threat to Mordian came one hot summer. The stiffening heat was unusual even for Mordian, and the planet seethed with unrest. Beneath the streets brewed a secret conspiracy that possessed a threat far greater than any seen before. In the depths met a dark conclave, a group of men who knew the extent of Mordian's wealth and wanted it for themselves. Away from the sight of saner citizens, they made their incantations and called upon the dark gods of chaos. A spell had commenced. It is impossible to say how much innocent blood was spilled to fuel this sorcery, or what sinister pledges were made to their dark masters. Those who cast the spell sought only personal enrichment. Their lust for power knew no bound. They would destroy the planet itself if they had to. They cared no more for its teeming millions than did the Chaos Gods. The summer grew hotter as the spell neared its completion. Many strange things were reported in the capital city of Vanadra. The cannibal mobs and criminal gangs were restless. Men saw winged monsters hovering in the city light. People disappeared without a trace. At last the spell was complete, and suddenly the world shook as its skies erupted into flame and disgorged the warlords of chaos itself. From the Eye of Terror, distorted and ugly spacecraft soared into the Mordian skies to rain fire and destruction upon the world. Chaos Space Marines poured into the city, slaying all around in a great and bloody sacrifice to their gods. Demons stalked the burning towers and hunted the souls of those that fled from the devastation below. From their dark hiding places, the servants of chaos crawled to the surface to bathe in the fire and terror of the world, confident of their master's favor now that their work was done. As the sky exploded into flame, the Tetrarchs of Mordian ordered their astropaths to send psychic calls for help. The power for chaos was so strong that the astropaths' minds melted with the effort. It was impossible for anyone to say whether the message got through, or if help was on its way. Meanwhile, the Iron Guard fought a gallant resistance against the demonic assault, while lesser men fled in terror before the might of chaos. The Iron Guard stood their ground, pouring volley after volley of laser fire into the enemy's ranks. At last, the Iron Guard captains were forced to give the order to withdraw. Though their men would stand until the end, they could achieve little against the hordes of demons and superhuman traitor marines that opposed them. Reluctantly, the Iron Guard regrouped around the capital, abandoning the rest of the planet to the enemy. While the forces of chaos rampaged through Mordian, the Iron Guard prepared Vandra's defense. Every building became a fortress, every tower a strong point, and every street and plaza a killing zone for the Iron Guard's carefully sighted weapons. At the center lay the Tetrarch's palace itself, from which the defense of the capital was coordinated. When the attack began, the Iron Guard was well prepared. Chaos Space Marines fell before their well-disciplined fire as shot after shot struck their ranks. Channeled into well-prepared fire traps, the Chaos Space Marines were easily repelled, but far greater and more potent foes followed upon their heels. From the sewers and service ducts of the capital poured an army of Chaos cultists, those wretches who had sold their souls to the dark gods. Clad in rags and armed with no more than iron bars and lengths of chain, they threw themselves upon the defenders. Driven by their insane devotion of chaos, they cared little if they lived or died, and thousands were cut down by the devastating weapon of the Iron Guard. Nonetheless, this attack from an unexpected source left the defenders unprepared for the next assault. The forces of chaos moved upon the Iron Guard with purpose. Demons and Chaos Space Marines advanced as one. Bloodthirsters of Khorne roared a great challenge to chill mortal blood. Keepers of secrets stalked the battlefield, slaying those that dared to look upon them with withering glare. Whirling horrors skipped and chattered in an eerie blur of incandescent power. It was a terrifying sight, yet the Iron Guard held firm before the onslaught, though many paid the ultimate price for their devotion. Street by street, building by building, the Iron Guard fell back into the heart of the city. Their lines drew tighter but refused to break, as attack after attack was repulsed. When losses were too heavy to endure, or as positions were outflanked, the Iron Guard withdrew to another line, always preserving what they could of their men and weapons. It was a battle fought with a tactical brilliance and discipline the best Imperial troops could hope for. Yet it was a battle that the Mordians could not win. Eventually, they would have nowhere left to retreat. At last, the Iron Guard took positions around the Tetrarch Palace itself, the last strong point on the whole world. Behind hastily constructed defenses, the infantry waited for the inevitable attack. From the towers and ceremonial balconies, the barrels of las cannons and other heavy weapons glinted in the light of the burning sky. Suddenly, the horde of chaos was upon them, screaming and bellowing in its might. Greater demons of Nurgle strode amongst their minions, rising above them 4 or 5 times higher of a man, giants and lords of their foul kind. The bloated demons shuffled forward, putrid innards spilling over the ground, nauseous gases bubbling from the rents and tears in their leathered flesh. Beside them were the Plague Marines of the Death Guard, wholly dedicated to the pestilent god, their armor green and rancid with decay, their rank bodies stiff with disease. Before them came a black cloud of flies, which buzzed around the Iron Guard, crawling into their eyes and ears, and filling their mouths with black hairy bodies. The Iron Guard's lasguns spat a volley of death into the screaming horde. Again the lasguns cracked with a single voice, as the captains ordered shot after shot into the vile mass. From the Tetrarch Palace came the chatter of autocannons, the angry screams of bolters, and the piercing shriek of las cannon. With mechanical precision, the weapon crews loaded and fired over and over again, never stopping for one moment or breaking their routine. Demon gore ran like a foul river in the once white square, but as one beast fell, another, twice as hideous, marched over its body toward the Iron Guard's position. The captains ordered their men back to the palace steps and formed a firing line, their discipline intact. The Iron Guard prepared for a single volley before the forces of chaos fell upon them. Their final moment had come, though there were few left now to witness this inevitable defeat. Little could the defenders of Mordian know of the power or purpose of chaos, or that the Chaos God's hold upon Mordian was but a tenuous one. The spell that had brought them to mortal space and imbued the flesh of their servants with physical energy was almost spent. The fires that burned in the sky grew dim, and the bellows of demons echoed shallowly in the air. As the Iron Guard watched, their enemies dissolved before their eyes. the sky darkened to its customary blackness. In the dark and guiding lights of Imperial spacecraft glittering amongst the stars, the Iron Guard had won not just a battle, but the most precious thing of all, time. From beyond the orbit of Mordian, Imperial Psychers had brought a counter-spell to break the hold of chaos. While the Iron Guard fought upon the planet, a separate battle of wills had raged between the mortals of the Imperium and the Dark Gods. Only the Iron Guard's heroic resistance had given the Psychers enough time to work their mystical abilities before chaos won the planet for all time. The disappearance of their most potent units demoralized the remnants of the chaotic attackers, and the Iron Guard took the opportunity to rout the enemy and force them from the planet, displaying an implacable will that would have impressed even the Adeptus Astartes. As a result of the Battle of Mordian, the regiments of the Mordian Iron Guard were soon considered some of the most elite units of the Imperial Guard, and were deployed to multiple conflicts across the galaxy. And those were 40 facts on the Mordian Iron Guard. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, thank our patrons on Patreon. It's because of them that we can do this. Link in the description if you guys want to support us. It's $1 a month. It goes a long way, so thank you ahead of time. Don't forget to check out the links in the description. But with that said, we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. This was Gersh1 with One Mind Syndicate signing out.